Sports Illustrated Alber Breer reports that the Bears are zeroing in at Paris Johnson at that number 9 selection in this year's NFL draft. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to look at the Bears rookie class from last season and some surprising draftees that could fall into day 2 and ask the question, could the Bears be interested and could that force the Bears to go best player available a little bit earlier? We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize. Right off the top, you can follow me if you choose to do so at CEO Haize. That's CEO Haize. You can also follow the show at Shine Bears Central on every social media platform. So, Robert Breer from Sports Illustrated reported that the Bears are zeroing in on Paris Johnson at number 9. Now, this shouldn't surprise a lot of people, right? In saying that, that Ryan Post has done a lot of work on the offensive lineman, and a few of them have told me that the Ohio State's pro day, he zeroed in pretty good on Johnson. The issue with Johnson's lacking top-end strength can be addressed. He doesn't turn 22 until July, and he has exemplary football character, which would lead you to believe he'll improve in that area. Knowing the scouting tree that Post is coming from, I think it'll be Paris. So again, a speculative piece, right? We all know that, right? Anything around this area, it's not like any NFL teams are going around to these analysts and saying, hey, we're drafting this guy, by the way. Oh, by the way, we're drafting that guy. But it makes sense. Not only is it a fit, it's a scheme fit, it's a fit on paper. You look at the youth and even with Albert Breer pointing out there the character concerns, right? And we know that's a lot's been surrounding that with Jalen Carter. That's not happening in the case of Paris Johnson. He has the motor, he has the work ethic that you think he's going to maximize on that potential. And so heading into the draft, which is this week, if Paris Johnson's name ends up being the one that's called for the Chicago Bears, it'll be a name that's needed. It'll be a name in a position of need, a place of need. And the Bears can start really planning their offensive line for the next few years. When you really look at the youth that we have on that offensive line, we still have Tevin Jenkins, not that long into his NFL career. We have Braxton Jones, who showed some things last season. We now have we could have potentially have Paris Johnson as well after this draft. That's added to J. Tyree Carter, who still showed some flashes and is going to be at very least a depth piece for the Bears for a little while. Listen, we're going to have a nice young offensive line, and we're building that step by step. And just because if Paris Johnson does end up being the name that's called at number 9, do not be surprised if you get more offensive lineman name called later on in the draft, and we just continue that youth movement. Now, with any type of youth, you also need production. And so these players have to produce. They have to come in. The coaches are going to try to get the most out of them. And, they're going to have some issues in their rookie year. It's bound to happen. To watch their development over the course of this NFL season that's coming up, it's going to be fun to see. And if Paris Johnson Jr.'s name is called by the Chicago Bears at number 9, I have no issues with it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you still think, and some people still think the Bears should maybe get a little bit more creative, go a different route, different position? And at the end of the day, it's all going to boil down to who's there, who's available. Weird things have happened in the draft. And we've known that. If you're a football fan for a while, once the draft day starts, it can get real interesting, meaning that you can hear some names that you didn't necessarily think that teams would go after called. And let's see if that ends up happening with Paris Johnson, if he's there for the Bears at number 9. But let's go ahead and move on. So I want to look at something as far as the Bears draft class from last season, right? I think because that helps inform kind of how good we can expect Ryan Post to do in this draft. And keep in mind, he had no first-round picks last year, right? So when you look at the top of that draft, Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon, did extremely well. Like, Kyler Gordon, of course, came on better late in that season. He had a rough start to the season. He got picked on. That's what you can expect from a rookie back, right? In that secondary. So, yeah, Kyler Gordon's season had its moments where you're like, hey, man, I don't know about this guy. But he still flashed that elite athleticism that he shown in the combine last season. And I know some Bears fans are down on Kyler Gordon. For one, I look at what he showed in his versatility of playing both inside and outside in that corner back position, and I look at having a full offseason, a second one in which hopefully he's a little bit more aware of how to use his speed and let the game slow down to him some at that NFL level. I think it was a really good pick by the Chicago Bears. And Jaquan Brisker, you guys know, I'm absolutely huge on Jaquan Brisker. I love his motor. I love his attitude. I really do think he can be a guy that ends up shaping up to be a leader, the leader, not a leader, the leader of your defense, and you can do a lot worse than that. The fact that he led the team with 4 sacks as well, second most tackles on the team as well, you got to look at that. Now, it starts getting a little bit You're harder to judge in the next one. That's Velius Jones Jr. And so, hey, listen, he showed some flashes on the second half of the season, right? When you look at the 42-yard touchdown that he had, things like that, he needs to do some work. And again, the game does slow down on people. I know he came in as a much older rookie. There are going to be a lot of rookies that come into this draft a few years younger than Velius Jones that is going to be next season. But at the end of the day, I think that he's still going to get an opportunity, and he should. In the second year, you draft him for a reason. You brought him in for a reason. He should get another opportunity at it. And I think as well, like in that passing game, we're not going to need him as much. It's not maybe having a little bit having better receivers out there and a better wide receiver core overall. He can come in and use that speed to dazzle a little bit. And in the special teams, just hold on to the ball, Dropsy. Hold on to the ball, fella. So that's a pause moment, but it is what it is there. Moving next, Braxton Jones. I'm high on Braxton. When you look at him coming in, had a strong season at left tackle for the Bears. End up being our starter. He ranked as far as Pro Football Focus as the second best run blocker and fourth in pass. An overall improved offensive line in general. He's going to continue to shine at, I think, as well. So looking out for Braxton Jones in that one. Next up, Dominic Robinson. And so this is a guy that I was extremely high on after the first couple of weeks of the season. I looked at Dominic Robinson and what he was able to do when he was a rotation piece, and I'm like, hey, I would not mind seeing this guy start. But then he got his opportunity, and it kind of went down. It didn't come to fruition like the way that we thought that it was going to if you just looked at what he did and what he was able to do as a rotation piece. But again, he's going to have an opportunity to this. I think we're going to have vast improvements on that offensive line. He's not going to be a starter, I don't expect, coming into the season, but I do think he's going to get an opportunity to still show that he can do things. So still, another solid pick there as well. Tristan Ebner, he didn't get as much in for me to really fairly judge, so it kind of looks like it's a wash there. Doug Kramer, that's another one. Like, I forget, as much as we've talked about center position, as I talked about it here on these daily episodes, I'm not going to lie to you. I've kind of forgot about Doug Kramer. He started at training camp. And not started in training camp. He started off training camp being the backup for Lucas Patrick at center. He saw reps with the first team when he was injured, but then he got that Lesfranc injury that sidelined the season. So it's really going to be interesting to see how they do view him, especially with some depth pieces at center. No, some starter level pieces that you can get at the center position in this draft, later in the draft. So we'll see. Doug Kramer, though, don't forget about Doug Kramer and J. Tyree Carter. At most, I think a depth piece there. He appeared in only 3 games last season. I don't, again, it's be unfair for me to judge him. I think I missed somebody in there. What rookie did I miss? Zachary Thomas. I did miss Zachary Thomas, but he didn't make the Bears full 53-man rotation last season. He did sign to practice squad. Kind of a wash there. Did miss him. But then the jewel, right? Jack Sanborn. Getting Jack Sanborn as an undrafted rookie, and just him starting, him leading the league in tackles for the games that he started, I think shows a lot of promise in Jack Sanborn. And we're going to get to see. He's going to be part of a completely revamped linebacking core this season that I think is going to shine and dazzle in some ways. And there are some other ones in there. Trenton Gill, the punter, he did really good as a punter. It's hard, like punters, you either get it or you don't, right? Elijah Hicks as well, but those are kind of the ones that I talked about are the main ones that, I wanted to talk about here. You guys can let me know. Now having a season removed and heading into the next draft class, how do you feel about the draft class from last season, right? How do you feel about that? How does that still hold up for you? But all right, coming off of that, I now want to talk about some of the rookies that are draftees that could come in to this draft that are kind of expected to maybe fall down a little bit. And could the Bears take a look at them if they're there on day 2, even though they may not fit? And the first one I'm going to talk about is a player that definitely fits, and that's Brian Barisi. And this guy, the defensive tackle out of Clemson, I had him on my defensive tackle episode when I did the best defensive tackles, not named Jalen Carter. So those are the ones that he was one of the people that I looked at and said, listen, if you can get him later on in this draft, and now some of the rumors going around that he may very well fall to day 2. If you can get Barisi on day 2, listen, I think you can do a lot worse. Is he perfect? No. But I think when you look at the potential he came into this draft with, if you can get that at round 2 and trust your development team to develop it out of him or into him, I think you can do very well with getting him on day 2. Now the next one, and this one surprisingly, Quentin Johnston out of TCU. This is a guy who some people had him going high in the first round. Even some drafts had him going as high as 18. But now Mel Kiper on ESPN has left him out of the first round in his latest mock draft. If he falls to day 2 and he's there at round 2 when the Bears pick, I know I've said I don't see the Bears going wide receiver early in this draft, but the upside of him, it may force the Bears to maybe go best player available earlier than we thought. Next one up that I also want to talk about in this, and this is another position that we've kind of addressed. I think we have 2 great tight ends in this, but when you look at Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia, yes, we brought in Tanyan. We already have Cole Kmet there, but again, you can bring him in. This is the guy that people are saying that he could go well into day 2. The Athletics' most recent mock draft actually has him going 48th overall, which is only a couple of spots before the Bears are supposed to select. So again, if he falls even further than that, you could see them. Now, again, all these are predicated by if the Bears do decide to go best player available earlier than what we initially expected. But hey, look out for that. Let me know any guys do you think that could slip to day 2 or even day 3 that the Bears could potentially select. Let me know what you guys think on all that down below. But that is it for today's episode of Chicago Bears Central. You can follow the show at Bears Central, at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for our mailbag episodes, and we need to hear from you guys on this Friday. That'll be after the draft. We need to make sure we hear from you guys. The voicemail number, 773-242-9336. We are the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.